Hello, welcome to Go to Uni English class. My name is Mr. Gaigbe, and in today's lesson we shall be looking at expository composition. What is expository composition? You can also call it expository essay. Before we shall answer that question, I want us to review some of the learning objectives that we have for the lesson. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to discuss or define expository essay. You should be able to identify the features of expository essay. You should also be able to discuss types of expository essay, and finally you should be able to write an expository essay on a given topic or a topic of your choice. Now, expository essay. To expose means to uncover something, either an idea or an issue or a process of doing something. So an expository essay is a genre of writing which intends to explain, illustrate, or clarify an idea or an issue or a problem or a way of doing things. Now, what we are trying to say in essence is the fact that in expository writings, the writer tries to explain either a process of doing something. For example, someone can decide to write on the process of manufacturing handset or a phone. He can also try to write and clarify an issue. An expository essay can also be written to discuss some of the issues in the society. For example, someone can decide to write about terrorism in Nigeria. That kind of writing, we try to investigate the causes of terrorism. It will also try to look at some of the consequences, some of the issues, some of the problems, repercussions, and after that, the writer will end up with a solution, trying to find out a solution, providing a solution to the problem. So expository essays are written to address some of these issues. Now, types of expository essays. Now, expository essay is classified into 5 types according to what the writer sets out to do. For example, you have process explanation. Process explanation tries to explain the step-by-step process or method of doing things. It shows clearly how something works. So an expository essay can be written, like I said earlier on, citing an example of how to manufacture phone. An expository essay can be written to explain how, phones are being manufactured, the step-by-step processes involved. Another type of expository essay is cause and effect essay. This one tries to examine issues, their causes and effect, like the one I cited on terrorism. Of course, whoever that wants to write about terrorism can write about the causes, the effect, and a way out. You can also write another type of cause and effect essay. For example, the causes and effect of drug abuse. It's a very good topic that one can write regarding this study. You have comparison essay. Comparison essay weighs 2 phenomena through contrast and comparison. It examines the similarities and differences with a view to finding or establishing relationships. Definition essay. Definition essay explains terms or concepts by stating their features. Classification essay. Classification essay organizes subjects into categories and examines the various segments in detail. Problem and solution. Problem and solution essay scrutinizes aspects of complex troubles or enigma and proposes possible way out. Functions of expository essay. Why do people write it? The purpose of expository essay is to clarify ideas, processes, and issues. This is achieved through making descriptions, comparisons, examining problems, profiling solutions, and explaining processes. So we are going to take a sample, but before we go into the sample, I want you to have this understanding. Now, like every other form of essay writing, expository essay has a structure. And of course, the structure of expository essay is you should have introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion, just the same way you write other forms of essays. Now, your introduction or the introductory paragraph should capture your thesis statement, what you set out to do in the essay, okay? And then your body paragraph should consist of your points, the ideas you have to share, some of the explanations you want to offer, the issues you want to address, and all of that. So your body paragraph should involve such things. Now, the number of paragraphs you have depend on the number of points you want to share. For instance, if you have a lot of points to discuss, definitely you're going to have a lot of paragraphs to write. And then in your body paragraph, what you should be sure to do is to make use of what is called transitional markers. For instance, you use transitional markers to link up your points and your paragraphs. You should know when to use transitional markers of comparison. You should know when to use transitional markers of contrast. You should know when to use transitional markers of similarity. For example, if you have discussed a particular point and you want to move to another point that is similar to that, you can use transitional markers such as similarly, in a similar vein, and the rest of them. And if you want to maybe introduce a point that is different from the other one you raise, you say on the other hand, in another way, or another way of saying it, on the contrary, and the rest of them. So with this, you will now link up your paragraphs together in the body paragraph. And then after that, you now write your conclusion. You must have a concluding paragraph. Your concluding paragraph can be a summary of the important points you have raised. Or sometimes people end up with a call for action. Maybe after addressing a particular problem or issue, the writer will now task the listener to stand up or rise up for action. So whichever one you want to do, it depends on the kind of topic you are writing and what you set out to do. So quickly, let's look at a sample of an expository essay here. The title is Yam Farm, or Yam Farm Challenges. Now notice something that is very important here. Yam is one of the tubers that are grown in Africa, especially in West Africa. Nigeria, the giant of Africa, is the largest producer of yam tubers. Yams are majorly produced in the north-central geopolitical zone of Nigeria. Until recently, yam tubers were produced and consumed locally in Nigeria, where peasant farmers have local yam markets where they sell their yam to local traders and distributors. The largest local yam market in Africa and maybe the world is the Zakibiam Yam Market in Benue State. It is a market where commercial distributors load hundreds of trucks and trailers of yams in a day during yam harvest season. Yam harvest season starts in July and runs through to January and February of the following year. This long duration of harvest entails how manually and multifaceted the process is. Modern mechanization of farming has made so much impact in the agricultural system of the third world countries, including Nigeria. However, the impact of industrialization has little effect on yam farming system. For instance, agrochemicals are but only effective in clearing weeds, just the same way tractors are used for only digging of ridges and rough leveling of farmlands. This is because that is the best they can be manipulated in farming yams. This appears to pose a great challenge to commercial yam farmers who continue to suffer lack of modernized and mechanized suitable yam cultivation and harvest equipment. However, this is not the only aspect of technological inadequacy. For instance, As mentioned earlier, tractors do not dig heaps. They are only used for stumpy ridges and jumbled cultivation patterns where ridges are improperly made. These ridges are too flat for farmers to plant yam seedlings in. This makes tractors effective only in farming cereals and not for the cultivation of tubers such as yams. With this situation, yam farmers must sustain the routine, crude, stone iron aged method of yam farming system. Meanwhile, this technological insufficiency has grave economic and health implications on the peasant yam farmers. First, they grow older than their age. Second, they do not have access to social amenities since most of them live in huts situated close to their farmlands where there are no access roads, good water, medical facilities, electricity, formal education, and so on. Beyond this miserable lifestyle, peasant yam farmers go through other challenges. For instance, the harvest process is particularly tedious. This is because the major part of the harvest takes place when the tubers are fully grown. Yams do not turn out until when the soil is parched and hard to cultivate. Farmers use cutlasses and hoes to dig out tubers. Breaking hard ground manually using hoes and cutlasses is a difficult farming job. Moreover, the most difficult part is the frenzied process of digging out tubers without misguidedly cutting them. This is where much vigor and know-how play out. Yet, there are other concerns. For instance, let's examine yam farmer safety awareness regarding those crude farm tools they use. Also consider primarily the knowledge of safety and protective measures in handling tools when they operate in the worst condition of hazardous environment. How much do they know about hazard? What about protection against reptiles and harmful insects? There are always reported cases of farmers being bitten by snakes. Most of them die given their pathetic peasant condition of poor health facilities. Besides, there are crop transportation challenges and banditry. Yam is perishable and lack of profitable markets to sell yam produce is another problem since yam farmers do not have effective storage facilities. These conditions force yam farmers to gain infinitesimally after selling their produce to local traders even when they wish to wait for appropriate season and marketplace. This process plays out annually while peasant farmers get poorer, older, and exhausted along. Thus, it calls for apprehension. More research should be carried out in this area in order to upgrade yam farm tools to meet the modern mechanized mechanized system and methods. There is so much the government can do in the areas of provision of good roads, functional health facilities, good water, electricity supply, loan grants, and other basic assistance. As soon as the government step in to put these things in place, the condition of farmers will improve and sufficient productivity will shoot up to boost global food security. Now this is a sample. You can read this over and over and then get a pattern. Of course, the writer tries to introduce the topic by defining what yam is. That's the introductory part. And then after that, he presents the challenges that farmers go through, some of the technological inadequacies. And after that, he runs up with a concluding paragraph where he says he calls on the governments of different levels or at different levels to step up and assist young farmers. So you can also try something like this. And then there are some questions here that you may want to attempt them. I want you to attempt them, at least one or two. Some of the past WAEC-NECO questions. The first one says, write an article for publication in a national newspaper discussing two major problems facing your country and suggesting ways of solving them. Then question 2 says, write an article suitable for publication in a national newspaper on the topic, the importance of national sports festival. So you can try them out. Also, you can read on this topic expository essay by consulting Excellence in English for Senior Secondary School Students Book 1. You can also consult New Concept English for Senior Secondary School Book 2. You can also look at New Concept English for Senior Secondary School Students Book 3. You can also go on the internet and get some materials to study on it. And with this, we have come to the end of today's lesson on expository essay. Thank you for choosing Go to Uni, and thank you for joining us today. Have a nice day.